Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? All right, it's just a couple minutes before the noon hour here in Utah, so I can now officially say good afternoon to all of you out there. And as you're getting on, will you let me know that you're here? Why don't you chime in and tell us where you're joining us from? It would be fun to see your faces and be able to know that you're here. So we'll wait just a minute before I bring on my special guest today. All righty. Looks like people are starting to get on right now. If you haven't already, then you could if you want to take a few minutes to download your free workbook from the website. Hi, Patricia. I'm going to pull that up here on the screen. And this is the worksheet that you'll want to print out and be able to take notes along with us today for our special guest, Carmen Geddes of 10 Sisters Designs. So we're going to talk about where her inspiration comes from. She's going to show us a great little tutorial about what she does and share some of her favorite tips. She's going to share what's new, and it's a great place for you to write down any questions you might have. And finally, we'll end with some life advice. You can plan on this Facebook Live lasting for about an hour. All of it is recorded, so don't worry if you aren't able to watch live or if you have to get off for a few minutes. That's perfectly okay. But you will find the download on our website. Go to mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com and just just add it to cart, and there's no charge, but you can download it from there. Hi, Susan, Judy, Barbara. Yes, Barbara, it was so nice to talk to you earlier today. Barbara from Massachusetts. All right. Hi, Jennifer from Michigan. Yay, you're back. And Kathy. Hi, Betty Jo. Hi, Lois. Wow. Jackson, Missouri, I'm guessing, is the MO. All right. So don't forget to download your workbook so that you can take notes and follow along today as we go through our interview. I'm so excited. Let me tell you, I'm really looking forward to this whole week. So if you've been with me the last couple weeks, you know that I've done a Facebook Live each day at 11 and at 4, and we covered all sorts of subjects. But I wanted to try something different this week instead. So I decided to pull together some of my most favorite designers out in the industry right now, and they are joining us live each day. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope you'll join back with us each day, because we're going to be giving away prizes and having all sorts of fun. Again, if you can't make it live, no worries. We got you covered. You can watch it anytime because these are recorded on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So we hope you'll come back. All right. Thank you, Debbie. She's like, this is fun. Hello, Kris. Hello, hello, my friend. All right. Betty Jo, that you're so funny. I'm going to pull this over. That is so true what you're saying. She said all the hellos sounded just like Romper Room. Who do I see out there? That's right. Exactly. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Again, thank you so much for being with us. You're so nice, Roxana. She says she's still in Vegas. You're keeping me happy with inspiration. That's right. That's what this is all about, is hopefully being able to add a little positive spin to your day and fill you with inspiration and always learning fun new things, right? That's what creativity is all about. Hi, Debbie, Gwen. Oh my goodness, Annie. Oh, Annie is going to be with me on Wednesday. Annie and Rain from Patterns by Annie. I'm super excited about that. Well, yes, Betty Jo says, didn't know you were old enough to remember Romper Room. Well, yes, Betty Jo, that is correct. I have no idea. I'm sure I've just seen, reruns on YouTube or something. That's all. Hello, my friend Kathy. Good to see you. Oh my goodness, so many fun things going on. Again, just as a reminder, and then I'm going to bring Carmen on, if you have not already downloaded your free workbook for this week's Sewing Summit, online Sewing Summit, go ahead and print that out right now so that you can take notes along the way as we get into our interviews. Annie says, I thought on Tuesday. Oh, maybe it is is it tomorrow, Annie? You're right, it is Tuesday. For tomorrow, for Annie. Patterns by Annie's tomorrow. Sorry about that, Annie. My days are completely mixed up right now. All right. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so you've downloaded your workbook. Let's get ready to take some good notes, and I'm going to bring Carmen on. Hello, Carmen.
Hello, Kris.
How are you?
I am so good. Okay. I am so glad to be here hanging out with you.
I am so happy to see you too. And how fun is it that you have that beautiful display in your background?
Work in progress. Work in progress.
Is it a work in progress? Is it really?
It is. It is. I'll talk about it when I'm doing my demo. But the quilts behind me is a work in progress. Yes.
It's gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful.
Nice.
I mean,
when you said, oh, it's so fun if you can be in your sewing room, I thought, my sewing room is more like my mad scientist laboratory.
If we could turn the computer all around, what would it show us?
Oh gosh, right? Oh, we got a pile over there, we got a pile over there, but right here looks really great.
Hey, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. I actually I was trying to do this broadcast from home today, and my internet was just terrible. So I ended up having to come to the store. So you do get to see beautiful threads in my background, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Carmen, how are you doing with everything going on the last few weeks?
It's been kind of crazy. I was laughing this morning when we first started chatting, saying that I have cooked twice as much and washed my hair half as much as I do any other time. And I actually did put clothes on for this interview. My pajamas are, So that was a bus. Actually, got dressed today, but I do have my house slippers still on. And I was laughing because I have all sorts of home projects for my husband to do, and so he's kind of hiding from me. I have to go find him, and we don't like to sit idle, but so many great things going on in the quilting community during this time. It's really uplifting.
Carmen, people are saying that there's a bit of an echo on your end. Could you turn down your volume maybe a little bit, and let's see if that helps.
Let's see. How do I do that?
Oh.
All right. I turned my volume down. Does that help a little?
Okay, let's see if that helps at all. Keep talking.
You do that. I'll stop yelling.
Or maybe we should put in the headphones or the earbuds. Should we give that a try real quick?
How's it sounding? How's it sounding to them right now? Do they feel like I am still echoing out there? I would sing you a song, but then you would all turn off your computers to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's got any better. So, no worries. Yeah, it says still echoing. Okay, let's see.
Okay, let's plug it in, and I don't have cool wireless headphones, so we'll see how I do with these. Modern technology and me. How's that? Can you hear me, Kris?
Can you let's put on both, and it's all the way in?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great, but we're still having an echo for some reason. Why don't you turn your volume all the way down?
And this is the volume on my computer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we'll still
turn that volume all the way down. And now I can't hear you.
You should be able to hear me in your
and with ears. Their earphones in. I can't hear you. So I gotta have some, I guess. How's that?
Good.
Oh, what a nice kid.
I know. Shoot, it sounds like there's still an echo from the... Oh, let's see. It's still echoing a little bit. Oh, I'm not sure what to do there.
All right. Well, maybe that's the first world problem. Everybody just plug one ear. See if that helps. No.
Shoot. Oh.
Okay, now I'm unplugging my headphone, but I turn my volume down. Can I still hear you, Kris?
Okay, let me see if I can do that the same. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're going to spend the hour figuring out our computers, and then
oh, shoot. Well, let's just do our best.
For you?
Someone says, have her go out and come back. No, not sure that's going to work.
I'm going to open my sewing room door. I don't know if the room acoustics make any difference at all, but I just opened my door.
Oh, they're saying that's better. I don't know what happened, so maybe
it was bouncing off. Maybe it was literally bouncing off the walls. I opened my sewing room door.
Good. Oh, phew. Okay, much better.
Okay, good.
Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so, so yeah, you were talking about your hair and
how dirty it is. It's been the scrunchy hairdo basically for the
that's right.
week.
That's right.
And, yeah, just kind of trying to get used to a little bit of new normal. I am getting some things organized, getting some sewing done that I haven't been able to get to, and but trying to stay in contact too. Trying to stay in contact on Instagram. I am nowhere near techno savvy as you are, Kris.
Oh.
If I can post on Instagram and it's automatically shared to Facebook, then my day is complete.
Oh yeah, no worries at all. I'm just so glad you're here. And it sounds like the echo is getting better. So let's hope that continues. Okay. And perhaps I need a headset too. So why don't you go ahead? Let's first talk about if everyone has their sheets put together. Oh, Rachel, can you find me some earbuds, please? That will go into this computer. What type is it? It goes here. Okay. So let's talk about the first question I want to start out with is, okay, first of all, you're amazing. Can I just say that? You're amazing. And so you need to let us know, where does your inspiration come from? Because I see these amazing quilts that you've done, and they're absolutely gorgeous and stunning. And some of those quilts I would never dare do on my own, and yet you've done them because of this grid, which you're going to talk about today. So why don't you start out with telling us, where did this all come from?
Oh gosh, I feel like I have always been a quilter. My first memories are playing under the quilt frame, and all of us little kids, we used to guess whose mom's legs were who, because of course they're all wearing dresses, and that was just kind of in my blood, because you just made quilts. My mom made quilts because we needed blankets, and so it has always been in my blood, but I've always been drawn to these great old traditional quilts. And, going to quilt shows over the past, 20, 25 years, I'm showing how old I am. I would always be drawn to the antique quilt booths, and I would go and, ask the booth guy, about specific quilts, and I took a picture of a couple of quilts over the years. And you know how in our quilt magazines or in quilt books we'll put a little post-it note on all those quilts, and I had a picture of basically the quilt behind me. I had a couple pictures of just that. I've heard it called, like a scrappy trip around the world. We call it the mosaic, but it's that scrappy trip around the world block that is all surrounded by chains. And the one time I went and asked the guy, and it was like the most expensive quilt in the whole booth, by the way. It was just thousands and thousands of dollars. And he said, well, these are the most rare quilts because hardly anybody ever made them. And of course, traditionally they were hand pieced.
Okay,
and so
I was going to say, yeah.
So especially, when strip piecing came along, it changed our world for the better. We got rotary cutters and mats and rulers, and really changed the way that we piece. But some of these great old patterns have really just almost become obsolete because there's just really not a good way to make them unless you're going to do them square by square. So that, I think my inspiration is just, I didn't know this until about, maybe 10 years ago, but my great-grandmother, she was widowed with 4 little kids in Sweden, and she made the collars and did for the men's suits, and she was a little tailor, and she made this beautiful log cabin quilt that luckily one of my cousins still has the quilt in beautiful condition.
Wow.
So I feel like my great-grandmother, Emma Tyberg, is one of my quilting angels out there, and she made this beautiful log cabin on her way to America, and in the late 1800s. And anyway, so it's just in my blood. I'm always drawn to these great old quilts, but I thought there has got to be a better way for us to make these quilts. So,
wow,
that's Easy Piecing Grid.
That's Easy Piecing Grid. I love it. And later on, I'm going to show you what I've been working on with your method.
So excited.
And I tell you, it's been so much fun. So basically, your inspiration comes from seeing those old quilts and saying, I would love to make something like that, but surely you're not going to piece it by hand. And
right.
You can't, and the idea of strip piecing's great, but strip piecing also doesn't give you all the scrappiness sometimes that you want to. Need some earbuds. So, I love it.
Some of the patterns, you're right, and some of the patterns don't really lend themselves to strip piecing.
Right.
And when we think about piecing quilts, typically we think about block by block or strip piecing. But when I started getting obsessed with this mosaic quilt, I started looking at quilts in a little bit different way. Rather than blocks and strips, I turned it into a grid, which many of our quilts are based on a grid.
Okay, so when we talk about grid, we're talking about the Fusible Grid, right?
That's right. Okay. Can I show it to you?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and put the screen completely on you now. There we go.
Oh, okay.
And your lights are flickering a little bit, but I think it's just the angle of the camera or something. I don't know.
I'll move slower. I'll be in slow motion.
There you go.
I don't know if we can demo in slow motion, but this is our Easy Piecing Grid. It's a lightweight, I see it flashing, it's a lightweight iron-on foundation. And so it is nice and strong, but lightweight. The grid is printed right on it. I'm going to go up close. I don't know if you can see a grid printed on there.
Yeah.
So the grid is printed on. We print it ourselves, and we print our grid in panels. And so the one that I am holding up is the 2-inch finish, which I think is what you did your project out of, Kris.
Yep.
And so because we're piecing on this grid, we're kind of changing how we look at putting the quilts together. And so am I doing my demo now? Do I get to show you?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Everything I have to say? So I'm going to show you the quilt that I'm demoing on and see if you can kind of see this picture. So what we do is, here's the quilt. This is the mosaic. This is the quilt that started the whole thing. And so what we do is we take the quilt and we just divide it up into sections. And so each of these sections is the size of a panel. And because because we print our panel in 4 different sizes, it means you can make your quilt in lots of different sizes, but you're going to follow the same layout. So the 2-inch finished panel is the biggest panel. And then we have a 1.5 and a 1 inch. And I'm going to show you our 1/2 inch finished here in just a little bit. So when you are making a quilt, the most important thing is having that fusible side up. I always tell my students, if you don't remember anything else that I say, remember fusible side up. And you are going to follow, I call the pattern in the book a layout. And I'm going to see if I can tip my camera down just a little bit and see if I'm going to put glasses on here. What does that look like to you, Kris?
That looks good.
Let's see if this is all right. Okay, so this is, oh, hang on, I'm doing something. I think I'm okay. All right. Anyway, we are going to follow the layout, and we are going to iron down the squares. And as we are laying these squares out, one of the things that I really like is that you can fussy cut fabrics, some really fun designing with directional fabrics, but everybody's favorite part is that you get to see it. You get to see what it looks like before you ever start to sew. And I think that's everybody's favorite part. The other thing that I want to point out before we go to the next step is that when we print our grid, we purposely print these squares just slightly bigger than your cut size. So after we've laid these squares down, you might notice that we've got a little bit of wiggle room around these squares, and essentially what we're doing is we're giving you room to fold. And so when you have put all your squares on that panel, you're going to give this a good pressing with some steam, and then you are going to just fold it on that fold line and sew your 1/4 inch seam. Fold it on the fold line and sew your seam. And you're going to do that throughout the panel going in one direction.
Okay, let me stop you right there, because that to me that's such a game changer. When you think about not having to match up all those little pieces and do them one at a time, the fact that you can put all of your pieces all laid out at one time and then you sew, zip, 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 zip. I mean, it's unbelievable how the time, it's just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I like to say that the sewing is actually the easiest part, and especially on some of these patterns, that shouldn't be the easiest part, but the sewing is just easy. So this is actually really fun for teaching kids to sew and all that. Okay, I'm going to point this down one more time. So after we have sewn through that panel in one direction, our next step is clipping. And here's the seam that I just sewed. Whoops. Can you see that okay? So here's that seam that we just sewed, and you're going to snip or clip between each of those squares right up to your stitching line. Now the reason that you're doing that snip is so you can press seam allowances going in opposite directions. And the easiest way that I have found to do that pressing is I press one row going one direction, and then I just fold it under, and then I press the next row going the other direction and fold it under. So you're always just pressing one row at a time. And then it's my favorite part. Now it's time for us to fold right sides together to sew the other direction, and those seams are just nested perfectly. So there's no pinning or adjusting. You're going to just sew your seams going that opposite direction, and then this is how it's going to turn out.
Ah, that is incredible.
So the corners, hold it up. Those corners are just perfect every single time. And so I'm going to tip this back up again. And so I love it because the corners are perfect every single time. Your quilt top is stable and flat. I mean, you can imagine how stretchy just this piece would be. So I was just going to mention back to the quilt that's behind me. when I am teaching a class or at a quilt show, I demo with the 1-inch finish. That's what this one is too. And so the foundation gets softer and softer just as you handle it. So after I've demoed a few times with the panels, just like I showed you, they start to get a little bit fragile unless they're all sewn up. And so back behind you are my step-by-step demos that I've just been working on for about this last year. And I decided I made 2 lap-size quilts in this 1-inch finished, and I decided I'm going to make a big one. And so this, what I mean, a work in progress, I'm almost halfway finished. It's going to be a king size 1-inch finished.
Holy cow.
But isn't that fun?
And
the seam.
You're doing it in panels.
Seam, yes, it's all in panels. So we give little tips on how you can fuse panels together before you sew them. I like to say whatever size you feel like you can manage, then there's no pinning. I think that's one of everybody's favorite parts about this is you are not pinning. I mean, you can imagine how much we're pinning. I was going to say that the second seam gets pressed in one direction. And I like to use steam on that. I'm letting that steam do some of the work and let those get relaxed. And anyway, so many endless possibilities.
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's so much fun. And you know, another thing I like about it that I was realizing last night when I was piecing the one together that I'm going to show was that even if you're not perfect with your cutting, it's okay. Yeah. And it ends up being perfect.
Exactly. One of the concepts. Go ahead.
No, you want a little bit of space in between.
Yes. Well, you know, I like to say that one of the great things about piecing on a foundation is that your cutting doesn't have to be perfect because the foundation is. So as long as they fit inside the square and as long as they fit in your seam allowance, they come out perfect every single time. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to just show you quickly half square triangles. I'm going to just hold this up here. And so this is more traditional piecing where we've got a more traditional block. And what we do when we're piecing traditional patchwork blocks is, again, we are looking at this quilt. This is a section of my little sampler quilt. But when we look at a block, we're breaking that block down to squares and half square triangles. So is it okay if I tip my camera down one more time here?
Absolutely.
Kind of show you what I mean. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Look at us doing technology. Okay, so here's a good example of a block where traditionally you might have a whole square in the middle, make the flying geese units, but you see how this block is broken down into squares and half square triangles. So you're going to pre-sew your half square triangle using your favorite technique. Place it on the grid, just like you do the squares. The trick for getting those great points is lining the seam up from corner to corner. So just like you said, your cutting does not have to be perfect. And your half square triangles don't even have to be perfect. They just need to fit inside that square, lining that seam up from corner to corner, and then this is how it turns out. And so this is just a section. I'll show you this section of our little.
So cute.
Sample. And if you notice, the sashing is included in the piecing. And so on several quilts that we've done that have sashing in the layout, I'm breaking that sashing down to squares. Everything is broken down to squares, but you can do some really fun things with directional fabrics and fussy cutting, and so the sky's the limit.
And you can do some fun things with the quilting too when it's broken down into squares.
Absolutely. In fact, I have a quilt that, you're right. I will use the pieced squares as my guide for quilting. So it's like you have the whole thing all ready to quilt too. So it's really fun.
So another question that I know a lot of people probably have is, obviously you're leaving the interfacing in.
Yes.
And so it's not being removed, but it actually, interestingly enough, it does get softer over time, correct?
Yes. So it's, we order the exact same product that we print on, and sometimes it comes really lightweight, sometimes it comes just a little bit heavier. It's generally very lightweight and strong, but my tip, and actually I have a little quilt to just show you.
Oh, yeah.
If the foundation stays in, and just like I was saying, it does get softer and softer just as you handle it. But let's say you do a project, and for whatever reason, so this has not, the second seam on this quilt has not been ironed yet. So this quilt looks a little bit bunchy. This is a 1-inch finished Boston Commons quilt. So this quilt, I just finished sewing the second seam, and so this quilt top is done and ready for borders. If I feel like this is a little bit stiff, and personally I've actually never done this with one of my quilts, but you can spritz the back of it with water, just a squirter bottle, spritz the back of it, toss it in the dryer for 5 or 10 minutes. And what that's going to do is just really soften this up even more. So let's say you wanted to hand quilt it or something, but the long arm quilters that I have talked to, and I quilt most of my quilts, they love it because that quilt top is really stable. It's not shifting and stretching. So they really like quilting these quilts that have been pieced on this foundation.
Yeah, so long arm quilting is a piece of cake on it. It's not a problem at all.
No, and if you're quilting it on your home machine, it's very, very stable, and so it's not going to do how we're really trying to baste or secure when we're quilting on our home machine. The quilt top's really stable, so it's a big advantage, I think.
Oh, definitely. So why don't you show us a few of your some examples that you have?
Okay, I'm so excited to show you. I was gonna do. Oh, this is. Am I showing our heart quilt, or are we gonna save that?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, so this is the Scrappy heart. Yay! So this one. So when we do a project, we either on the pattern or typically on the pattern or in the books, we say this is a 6-panel project or this is a 2-panel project. So this little Scrappy heart is a 2-panel project. I pieced mine on the 1-inch finish, so this is how big it is. And so I am so excited for you to show yours.
Okay, so my friends, I was really excited about this, and I thought, I have got to make one of these myself. Now, I made one, it's probably been a couple years ago. I made one of your projects, and it was so much fun. But I forgot how much fun this easy piecing grid is until last night. Yes, 9 o'clock last night. This is what I did.
Oh, yay.
Look at that.
We're all clapping. I love what you did on the border. That is so fun.
So I decided, oh my gosh, this literally went together. I did it for maybe a couple hours last night, and then I finished it up for about an hour today. So it literally was like a 3-hour project. No joke.
And
look at all that piecing.
Yeah.
It was so fun. And so I decided to do a patriotic heart because I felt like this is the perfect project to do right now. I'm going to get it quilted and I'm going to hang it outside our quilt shop because obviously during this epidemic that we're in, now more than ever, we want to share love with the world. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. And I figured what more perfect way than to do a heart quilt and to do it in patriotic colors. So
I love it.
This is, again, this is it. This is on the 2-inch finished grid. And
correct.
I'm so excited about it. I think it's really...
It turned out so cute. And I love the Scrappy. I don't know about you girls, but my scraps reproduce in the nighttime.
It's so true.
Most of my quilts are Scrappy quilts, and I love that. So kind of the point is, because we're piecing on a foundation, that foundation is always a grid, but what you decide to put on top of it is the sky's the limit, and technically we just need the picture.
Right.
So it makes it very visual. So I want to show you a couple more.
Okay.
A couple more projects that are 2-panel projects. And so this one is pieced on the 1.5-inch finished. So it's a little bit bigger.
So cute.
And so the fun this is getting us looking forward to summertime.
And I'll tell you, we have that, Carmen, on our website as a kit. But ours is really even scrappier.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to see it. And that's what I love, is that, a lot of people say, well, where do we get the easy piecing grid? And our first priority is our quilt shops. And so I love that you have it in stock, and so they know where they can come and get it. So this is a 2-panel project, and I call it the Faithful Flag. I think this would be a fun thing to hang in your window too.
Yeah.
And this is 2 panels of the 1.5-inch finished. One thing that a lot of people will ask is, when you piece a project on the grid and your quilt top is done and you want to add an extra border, do you need to stabilize that? And the answer is no. Mm-hmm. You're going to treat that just like you would any regular quilt top. So you just, like you did, you just added your border to the edge of that.
Here's a question for you, Carmen.
Okay.
Susan asked, does the 2-inch grid use 2.5-inch squares?
Right. We go by the finished size. And so the finished 2-inch, you're going to use 2.5-inch squares, which is a great size because all those pre-cuts cut down to a 2.5-inch square, and you can even buy now cute little stacks of 2.5-inch squares.
Yeah.
When those came out, I thought, who in their right mind would buy a stack of 2.5-inch squares? Now I have a whole basket of them over there in my shelf. They're just so cute. But yes, the 2-inch finished. So we go by the finished size, and then right on the panel, it will tell you the size to cut. And on the pattern. So I wanted to show you a little sample of our 1/2-inch finished.
I'm dying.
I know. On the panel, I almost printed 1/2-inch finished for crazy people, but I did not add that part.
That's amazing.
I knew there was a call for miniature. I knew there was a call for 1/2-inch finished, and so we started printing it. Now, one thing that I don't think I pointed out, all of our panels are 9 squares across by 14 down. That is how we divide up our quilt layouts, is 9 by 14. But what we did on the 1/2-inch finished is I didn't want to make a panel that was this big, so the 1/2-inch finished panels are 18 by 28 squares. So it's a nice big panel. And then, of course, the crazy thing about the 1/2-inch finished, I have a little sample here. Here's you're going to start with a 1-inch square. And so this is not super intimidating. Do you see how I pre-sewed those half-square triangles and just placed them on the grid? But then this is how big it turns out.
That's so cute!
So I know, right? It literally shrinks in half, which it was mind-boggling. When I was doing this pattern right here, I'm laying it all out, and I thought, oh, I gotta stop. This thing is gonna be huge. And I sewed it, and it just literally shrunk in half. And so anyway,
so
the 1/2-inch finished, it's really fun if you don't want to make a big quilt. So pin cushions are so this is just a cute traditional little quilt block. And like I said, I kind of just needed the picture of the block, and I cut out my squares and made the half-square triangles. You sew it up exactly the same way. Mm-hmm. And so this is really fun. So one panel of the 1/2-inch finished would make a lot of pin cushions. So I think that would be a fun thing. You could send an unstuffed pin cushion to all your quilting friends that are all quarantined right now. And so that would be really fun.
Exactly.
So am I showing you a couple other big quilts here?
Yes, please.
So I know it's a little hard to show a big quilt. I should have gotten a helper, but I'll kind of show you our So this, I don't know how well you can see this quilt. This is actually the one that I was showing before. I'm overpowered by my quilt. So this is the Boston Commons quilt. I'm going to hold it up this way because the thing that's really cool about Boston Commons quilt is the squares are on point.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, it's kind of like a trip around the world where it's there's a center row of squares and then they're all surrounded, but they're all on point. So I'll show you that in our book in a minute, which is really fun. This is our big sampler, a little section of the big sampler. This quilt has 30 different blocks in it, but it is 12 panels. So this quilt was pieced on the 2-inch finished, and so it turned out about 72 by 84 inches before border. And so I don't know if you can, I don't know if you can see the sashing. Can you see the quilting on the sashing on that?
Yeah.
This year I used the pieced squares as a guide for my quilting,
yeah,
like you were saying.
Well, then you know it's all going to be nice and even too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's been so fun to just see the different quilts. I have one more that I'll show you.
Carmen, quick question. Quick question for you. Are the half square triangle seams pressed open?
I do not press them open. It really is your personal preference. Okay. I pressed mine to the dark side and lay them on there, and it's kind of cool because we're not putting two pieces of fabric, next to each other and pinning them and sewing, because we're laying them all down. It's really cool.
I love awesome the fact that it's like putting together a puzzle.
Yes. In fact, if you have a puzzle lover in your house, like a husband or a son, which I do, they are your new quilt piecers because it's like putting a puzzle together.
That's so
Seriously.
True.
In our last book that we just published, my husband and my son, we did a big 1-inch finished quilt, and they got credit for piecing that quilt in the book because they ironed all the squares down. I did the sewing, but again, the sewing was the easiest part, so it was pretty awesome.
What's your next quilt?
Oh, I got to show you that. Well, it's a little hard to see the whole thing. It's our little giraffe.
I love this quilt so much. In fact, you know what? Let me pull a picture of it on the screen. Okay, awesome. I know you probably can't see this, but I brought over a picture from your book of this darling giraffe quilt.
Oh, thank you. I've got your live on my phone so I can see you.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the cutest? That is from the book called Quilts for Kids. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
Which is on our website.
One thing that was really fun is I got a picture from a gal who did the giraffe, but instead of those little pieced blocks, she did little pixelated hearts.
Oh.
And so because the process is so visual, you get to see it. So I love that. I think this kind of brings out some creativity.
I'm gonna bring over a few other of my favorites from that book.
Thank you.
Here's the fox, which I think is so cute.
Oh, thank you.
And let's see. There's the elephant. Okay, let me grab the elephant.
So the kids' book was so fun because what I call these are pixelated pictures. So we've gone from traditional patchwork, to old heirloom patterns, traditional patchwork, and then some of these fun little kids' quilts are what I call a pixelated picture. Mm-hmm. We had a cute gal come up to us at a quilt show, and she said, "Do you have an alpaca?" And I said, "I don't have an alpaca, but let's get on your phone." And we Googled pixelated alpaca, and up came like 5 cute pixelated pictures that may have been a cross-stitch design or the little bead art projects. And so she took that picture of the alpaca and divided it into sections that were 9 by 14, and there became her quilt layout. Okay. It was really fun.
Here's the alligator.
Alligator was fun. And what I think is fun too is behind some of these little pixelated pictures, sometimes there's a lot of background. So we did an alligator, we did a really fun like chevron piecing. We did some really fun things with the directional fabric placement. So I love the possibilities, of the backgrounds. Even if I have, like on the elephant, all this white background, I just grabbed all my white scraps. And so, like I told you, they do reproduce, so I will never run out of scraps.
And it's so true. And I think a lot of us can relate, right? And then I just brought up the hedgehog, and I think it's just so cute how you have the background on that one.
Yeah, just that fun little Irish chain. I love chain quilts, if you haven't noticed by now. And so it's just fun. And it's fun because I've seen these hedgehogs in every color. I've seen some floral hedgehogs pieced out there. And so because you're laying those squares out, you get to see it. You get to see what it looks like. And
Exactly.
so I have students say, now here's my fabrics that I brought for the quilt in class. Are these going to work out? Do you like these? And I tell them, you're going to answer your own question because you're going to just lay them out and you'll be able to answer your own question right as you see it laid out on the grid. So
right. And really, all of these are it's the same pattern. It just depends on what size grid you use.
Exactly.
We'll give you a different
like the
size.
Fox, any of the quilts, we tell you how big it will be in that 1.5 or 2 inch finished. And I'll show you one really kind of fun little trick, because I have some people that even are saying, Carmen, a 2.5 inches still feels really little. I'm going to see if my camera will point down here. Let me show you. Can you see this right here? Let me turn you this way. Or no, this way. Can you see this?
One way or another, right?
Can you see this right here?
To go over just a little bit more. Other way.
Like that?
Other way.
Other way.
There we go.
Right here?
Yep.
What was I saying? Okay, here's if you can see this is printed, the 2.5 inch squares, but I've got a 5 inch square, and I'm putting that over the top of 4 squares. So let's say you wanted to make one of these projects, but use bigger squares. You can put a big square over the top. You just need to do it throughout the whole thing. And so that's kind of a fun little tip if you want to make a quilt. But keeping in mind that these squares are printed a tiny bit bigger, so the pre-cuts that have the picot edge work really well, but if I'm cutting out my own, I'm going to give myself about 1/8 of an inch bigger. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. But it's kind of fun because you aren't just limited to the sizes that are printed on the grid.
Yeah, that's very true.
You can go bigger.
That's very true.
So,
I love that.
It's all about possibilities. I hate being told that I have to do something a certain way. Can you tell?
I brought up, here's the book. It's called, people have been asking, where are those found? It's Quilts for Kids is
Quilts
the book
for
on
Kids.
our website. Perfect. How many different quilts are in there?
So the Quilts for Kids has got 16 projects in it.
Holy cow.
And our little pixelated animals are in there. And what I was going to show you, we did a lot of 6 and 3 panel projects. So this one right here is a 3 panel project. But of course you can make it bigger if you want to. 3 panels of 2 inch finish is a really fast, cute baby quilt if you add a border.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think everybody should make this quilt, we put the mosaic in here. We call it Vintage Charm.
I love it.
So it's the same pattern, but in a 6 panel. And then I wanted to show you my favorite scrap buster. This is our Scrappy Garden Path.
Oh, yes.
And this one is really fun. I pieced this one in the 1 inch finished. So they're not just all baby quilts. So this one is a great value. And
That's
This
true.
was
That's true because
yeah.
I did notice that they were not all baby quilts.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of really nice throw. 6 panels of the 2-inch finished makes a really nice throw. That finishes at about 50, what is it, 54 by 56 before borders, I think it is, a full, maybe it's 54 by 56 before borders, 6 panels of 2-inch finished. So that makes a nice lot size.
Look how sweet that little baby bum is. Can you see on my screen?
Oh my gosh, I know. Those are 2-inch finished squares, but that was a pretty new baby in that picture. So.
Oh my goodness, that little baby bum bum.
I know.
So
it's
fun.
The best. Well,
so what else?
Are just a little bit magic. So.
What else do you have new coming out?
Well, okay, I just want to show you. We have our 4 books. So we have the Quilts for Kids. This is our first book. These are 10 quilts for 10 sisters. And that's me and my sisters right there.
And yes, there are 10 sisters.
There are 10 sisters, and I only have 7 brothers. And so our next book is our 7 Brothers Block Party. This is the one that is all about the traditional quilt blocks. So the Block Party book is filled with traditional quilts and tons of information in the book. And our newest one is called Around the Block Quilts. The Boston Commons that I held up, the 2 are in this book. We're doing something just a little bit different in this book. We print a border panel that is a narrow panel that is 36 squares long.
Holy
and we
cow.
print those. We print those in the 1, 1.5, and 2-inch, and so they're great for borders and sashing, but we wanted to do some specific specific quilts designed to piece on the border panel. And so I am going to hold this up, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it. Let me get it in the right place. Wait. There I am. I'm trying to get the quilt.
You're doing good. I'll move these out of the way. There we go.
This, I just wanted to see if you could see the layout. You see how they are long panels that are pieced diagonally.
Holy cow.
So, anyway.
Wow.
That makes this really awesome on-point quilt. So, I'm very excited about that.
Can you look at your screen? I love this quilt. Yeah. What book is this quilt from?
Let's see which one you're showing me. I'm a little time delayed. It is.
This is Pennsylvania Crossing.
The 10 Sisters. That is in the 10 Sisters book. And, 4 of the quilts in this book were pictures of antique quilts that I had been hanging on to. I'm going to just show you the layout. And so that quilt is a really good example of, I'm not quite sure how we would strip piece that. So it's kind of like that same trip around the world type quilt with the chains going through it, but it's just divided up into sections. And so now total beginners can make the quilt.
Absolute beginners can do this. Anyone can do this.
Anybody can do this. And it's such a great thing because, like I said before, we're not putting 2 pieces of fabric together and sewing them. You're just folding on that fold line, and off you go. So, can I show you one more fun project we're working on? So, this is it's upside down. So, I told you at the beginning I'm trying to be on social media and share, and this is our fun little sheep pattern that is a free download on our website, and I think you've got that pattern too.
Yes.
But we're doing a quilt along. It's coming up on Easter, and I wanted to do a fun quilt along, and I love sheep, so we are calling it the Feed My Sheep Quilt Along, and I had a pattern here to kind of show you. There we go. So here's a picture of the whole quilt. And you see how it's all white sheep except that one little black sheep? That's kind of me right there.
We all have a little black sheep, right?
We do. We do. And then I was going to show you that here I am piecing my sheep on the half-inch finished. I'm going to make a pin cushion of just one sheep.
Oh.
I don't have all those squares on there yet. So
that's fun.
So that's something that we're doing and sharing, and I don't know.
So I just put up your IG handle. This is on Instagram, right?
Instagram, yes.
So it's 10 Sisters Handicraft.
Yes, and we're on Facebook as Carmen Geddes Quilts on Facebook, and but I do anyway. I'm not very good at either of them, but I try to share what I do on Instagram over to Facebook, and so.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I laughed because I told Kim at the beginning, Kris. See, it's a Kim-Kris thing. Sheesh. But I told Kris that not very many people do I associate with that when I'm with them, I wish I were 10 years younger. And you are one of them. All of you know how amazing and incredible Kris is, and so I just you're rubbing off on me. You're sending out good vibes to everybody. So thanks.
Oh, you are so sweet, my friend. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if you want to follow along with the fun that Carmen is doing on Instagram and social media, follow 10 Sisters _handicraft, and you can I'm excited. I'm going to join the sew along, I think.
Yay.
Yes,
so we're doing some giveaways now. I was gonna do some giveaways for you.
Yes.
On this.
Yes.
I forget how we're doing it. Can I show what we're giving away?
Yes, we have some giveaways. And so for those who are wondering how to be a part of it, what you'll do is you'll go to right underneath this video. I was going to say, go to our Facebook page. You are on our Facebook page. And tell us.
I'm ripping off on you.
That's right. And tell us something new you learned from Carmen today, and just put it right in there. And if you want to share it with your friends, we would love that. If you would do that, we'd be so grateful. And that will enter you in for several giveaways. We have quite a few going on today, and each day we'll even have more. So Carmen, why don't you show us what you're giving away?
Okay. Hey, first I wanted to ask though, on the heart quilts, do you have kits that they can buy for the heart quilt that you made?
Yes, we do. If you are wanting to make a patriotic heart to put outside on your porch right now, or obviously wherever you want it to be, but that's what it would be really fun to see these on people's porches. We have these kits, and guess what? They're only $34.95.
Oh, that's awesome.
To make the complete top. So $34.95, and we'll send you the panels. In it. The panels and the fabric come with it. So yeah, and we have watermelon kits as well, because everybody loves watermelon. It makes you happy.
Exactly, and hungry at the same time.
And hungry, right?
Okay, so the giveaways that you are going to give away from me, this is a fun little Scrappy spool.
So cute.
And we have several different spool patterns, but this is a one panel spool. So if you've never tried Easy Piecing Grid, this is very fun and very fast. You do get to try your half square triangles a little bit.
Ooh, good way to start.
To make that. Yeah, so it's really fun. And so the kit has the layout, that's what we call it, the layout, telling you how many squares to cut out, and then the foundations in the back. It's the 1.5 inch finished. We'll make this size. So we're really excited to share that with my girlfriend's quilt shop.
Thank you. And how many of those are we giving away?
So we have 4.
4 of them.
Yeah.
4 of those that we'll be giving away. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Plus, my girlfriend's quilt shop will be giving away a $50 gift card to someone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a little bit better, but...
Well, hey, no. I'm sure everyone... We're going to be giving away a $50 gift card each day this week. So, and then
fantastic.
our guests will be giving away some fun things as well. So,
That's awesome.
Definitely. We have the kits for the Scrappy Watermelon as well as the Patriotic Heart on our website. We have all the grids, all the easy piecing grids. So 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, and 2. Did I get it all?
Yes. You got them.
Okay,
that's perfect.
As well as we have all of Carmen's books on our website. And I know our time is getting short, but I have to do a couple more things before we end. I hope you don't mind. You have this really cool tool called the piping tool. And so I would love it if you'd be willing to show us what it is, what does it do, and I bet there might be a lot of people who are interested in it.
Well, let me grab a little quilt with piping on it. So what I love is that little touch of color before a binding. And I don't know about you, but I am not very good at those little narrow borders. And so I love putting piping in the edge or on the edge of the quilt before I attach the binding. And so we are going to actually make our own binding. And so we have some super professional YouTube videos on Ten Sisters TV, with grandkids running around the background. Yeah. But we're going to take nylon cord that's nice and round and use the zipper foot of your sewing machine, and you're actually going to make piping. I use about 1.5 inch strip, so a little bit more instruction on YouTube. But when you are putting binding on the edge of your quilt, typically we're going to sew the binding on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, right? And so if I'm adding piping to the edge of the quilt, I need piping with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I don't know, back in the day when I very first learned this technique, I took my regular ruler and I tried to trim off my seam allowance of the piping that I made. I'm going to turn this camera down, and Kris, you're going to have to tell me, am I right here?
You look great.
Oh, yay. Every now and then I'll stick my face down here so you can see. Anyway, I was taking my regular ruler and trying to give myself a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and so instead we're using this tool that looks kind of like an acrylic ruler, but on the seam allowance lines is a little groove, because essentially what we're making is mini piping. And so this is the Ten Sisters piping tool, and my piping tool has a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8, and 5/8 inch seam allowance, and because I wanted more. And I am going to choose the 1/4 inch seam allowance to be on the edge of my quilt. So I made my piping with my zipper foot, and I am putting the piping tool over the top, and you see how I've gone back and forth so that the cord is in the groove.
Yeah, it just fits right into that channel.
Yeah. And then I'm going to trim off that excess, and now what we are going to have, I didn't use the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Hang on. Geesh, Malish. I don't even follow my own instructions. I thought, gosh, that seam allowance looks pretty big. So now what we've got is piping with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So then we're going to take our quilt. So this is just a fun little mini wall hanging. Can we see that okay?
So cute.
Thank you. So again, a little pixelated picture. And in fact, I think this little strawberry is from that Farm Girl vintage quilt book.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's kind of fun. So you can do patterns that you already have. And so then I'm going to lay that on top of the quilt. And when I sew this on the quilt, I am just overlapping. You see that? I'm just going to overlap the corner. And what's kind of neat though is I'm sewing the piping on the quilt, just following the same seam that I made the piping with, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
the other thing that I like to do is make sure I have just a little whisper of the quilt showing, because it's really easy to have this go off the edge, and I don't want to lose any seam allowance.
I love how you said just a little whisper.
I think that's a measurement. I think a whisper is a measurement.
That's right.
So after I get the piping sewn all around the quilt, then I can take that piping tool and lay it back on top, and again making sure that cord is inside the groove, and I'm just going to clean up that edge. And even though it doesn't seem like much, that is just really going to clean that edge up for me to sew the binding over the top. And so that is how the piping tool works. So on this one, I'm going to pull this one up. This has got that single row of piping, and then I've added my binding over the top. And then on our little heart that Kris and I are sharing today, I did a double row of piping.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Kris Kim. I'm just going to call you Kris Kim.
Yeah. People call us Krim.
Oh man. And so if you can see this, actually I'm going to put this up there high again. And I'm going to hold it up here. So this has got a double row of piping on this one. And so what I did is I made piping and cut a 3/8 inch seam allowance and put it on the quilt. And then I made piping and cut 1/4 inch. You just lay them. I sew them on separately, and then binding. So the other thing that I love is because the piping is made with that nice nylon cord, the edge of the quilt is really stable. It helps you to keep your quilt really nice and squared up and not stretch while you're putting the binding on the quilt. So
I love how it just adds this pop of color to it.
I love that too. A while ago, somebody told me, Carmen, piping is your trademark. And I thought, what? And I realized, it's on almost every quilt that I make. But I do. I love that little pop of color. Earlier today, when you said, Carmen, what are some of your hashtags? And I said, one of my hashtags is looks hard, but so easy. And I think if I had a theme of basically everything I do, is that if it looks hard, but it was actually easy, then that's
I love that.
Thank you for letting me show you.
Oh my goodness, yes. And people are asking about where they can get it, and it's on our website.
Yay!
So
yes.
If you go to mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com and then just hit new releases, you'll see all of Carmen's stuff right there. So the grids, the books, the piping tool, you name it.
Thank you. That's fabulous. And I love what you're doing. You're being such a great online presence for all of us so we can still shop. And so that's fantastic.
Well, thank you, my friend. So as we wrap things up, I have to ask, do you have some life advice for all of us? I'm going to ask every one of my guests this week, what are your parting words to all of us?
My gosh, right? I'm this wise sage now that I'm a grandmother, and I love giving advice. But, when you said that, I did just start thinking, and I just thought the first thing that really came to my mind that I am really trying to do for myself is to just be grateful. Just trying to find, I feel like we're going through this weird experience where all of a sudden we're being limited. You can't go here, you can't do this, and we're used to being so free, in so many aspects. And I mean, luckily, even with all this craziness, we still have so much abundance. But I still can find plenty of things to complain about. And so, who's going to stand in line at Costco? Dang it, And so my parting advice, I think, to myself and everybody would be to just find something every day that we're grateful for, because we still have so much luxury. We're so lucky, and
it is.
So be grateful. True. And if anybody runs out of fabric, you know where to get it.
I don't think
either
that'll
you
be a
or
problem.
Me. Exactly.
I don't think that'll be a problem.
We don't have too much of a worry of running out of really anything except maybe toilet paper. So
we still have plenty of fabric. We can take care of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Carmen, I really appreciate you coming on, and whatever I can do for you, you let me know.
I will, and you do.
We're
and I'm
besties
so
for
glad
life.
to meet. Yeah, exactly. So glad to get to hang out with all of my girlfriends too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Carmen. It was a wonderful presentation you gave today. I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of people who are excited to try. Let me tell you, I have to say it took me maybe 3 hours tops, and that includes cutting out my squares, laying them all out. It was like putting together a puzzle. It was so fun.
Yeah.
This is something that is so simple to do. Even your children can help you do it. Okay, they can help you. They can look at the pattern and see the puzzle, and then they lay it out, and then you see it right out in front of you. If you need to make any adjustments, any changes, it's all done before you even take it to the sewing machine.
Yes.
And then once you go to the sewing machine, it's just these long lines of sewing. It's like amazing.
It should be hard. It just isn't. And I'll tell you one quick thing about the kids is they are so unintimidated by this. They go to town. My cute little granddaughter, Matilda, I gave her a 2-inch finished panel and some squares, and the first thing she did was spell out Tilly and then filled in the background. It was awesome. And so
that's
a great thing to share with the kids.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks. All right, you have a great day.
I appreciate you.
I'm gonna go put my pajamas back on.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Okay. Take care, Kris.
All right, everyone. So that wraps up today's online sewing summit. I hope you learned something new and are excited to try something maybe a little different. Some of you have done this before and you are reminded about how much fun it is, and some of you have never tried it and think, are you up for the challenge? Then I think you're going to have a great time doing these fun projects. So anyway, if I don't get to your questions live, I'll be sure to go back through and answer them later on. Again, this is being recorded, so you can always come back to it a little bit later and watch as well. So everyone, I'm thinking about you. I love you all so much. Thank you for your support and for your friendship. It means the world to me. It means the world to my staff. And so my parting words would be this: to keep sewing, keep on keeping on, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay home. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.